I never imagined I'd walk into a boardroom and see my entire life change on a single day. One minute, I was wiping grease off my hands in a dimly lit garage, the smell of motor oil and old rags clinging to me. The next, I was standing in a glass-walled conference room facing the Drexlers, the family who had built their empire on arrogance and entitlement, and who had always laughed at me. Riley, my daughter, had the kind of calm I'd only seen her show when she was fixing broken things in the shop. Only this time, she wasn't fixing a car. She was about to take apart an empire. She opened her briefcase slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "You're bluffing," Alan Drexler said, leaning back in his chair, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. Riley laid the document flat on the table. The state stamp gleamed under the fluorescent lights. My name, Marcus Carter, was bold at the top. "Filed Monday, verified by the corporate secretary. You were copied." The room went silent. Alan's jaw tightened. That can't be valid." One of the board members, a sharp-eyed woman with a silver necklace, flipped through her own copy. "It is valid, Alan. I saw it come through." Riley's eyes scanned the table. "I'd like to submit new business, emergency item, breach of compliance protocol, financial misconduct, and negligent governance." A shiver ran through half the room. Alan laughed once, bitter and sharp. "You think you can just walk in here and stage a coup?" "I don't think," Riley said, calm as ever. "I know." She stepped forward, passing out copies of red flag documents, vendor fraud, inflated invoices, falsified FDA submissions, all tied to his family. No theatrics, just facts. I shifted in my chair, feeling the weight of every glance on me. This was real. This was happening. And for the first time, I realized we weren't just taking control. We were reclaiming justice. Alan's face went pale. For years, he treated the company like his personal playground, untouchable, above the rules. But now, every smug grin, every condescending comment was about to crash down. Riley stepped forward again, her calm precision slicing through the tension. "Vote to audit," she said simply. The room stiffened. A few board members exchanged nervous glances. Alan slammed his hand on the table. "This company has been in our family for 50 years. You think you can just waltz in and end our legacy?" "You didn't build this," Riley said, voice steady. "You gutted it." For the first time, Alan's son, Brent, spoke. His voice was soft, almost pleading. "Riley, come on. This doesn't have to get ugly." Riley didn't flinch. Her eyes were cold, cutting through him like a blade. "You already made it ugly." I leaned forward slightly, proxy in hand. "I second the motion." Ellen, the sharp-eyed board member from earlier, took charge. "All in favor?" Hands went up, one by one. 5, 6, 7, 8. Enough. Motion carries. Alan's jaw slackened. He couldn't believe it. His power, his legacy, evaporating in front of him. Riley leaned across the table, calm and unyielding. "You handed me your trust. I used it. You handed me your arrogance. I weaponized it." Brent didn't move. He just stared down at the table, frozen, like the world had tilted and he hadn't noticed. Ellen continued. "Interim board chair appointment, Marcus Carter." I froze. Me? Board chair? I wasn't ready for this. But Riley's nod was firm. "Stand." I did. Hands went up, again. Motion passed. Alan stormed out. His brother followed. Brent hesitated, eyes flicking between us and the door. Riley caught his gaze. "This was never about love," she said quietly. Brent blinked. "It was about legacy." We walked out. No cheers, no applause. Just the echo of our heels on the tile and the heavy door swinging shut behind us. Outside, the sun hit hard. Riley exhaled, her shoulders dropping just for a second. I didn't say a word. She grinned. "Nice suit. Nice takedown." I shook my head, still trying to process it all. 3 weeks ago, I had grease under my nails. Now, I was the interim chair of a multi-million-dollar company I hadn't even known I was walking toward. Riley tossed her briefcase in the trunk like it was Tuesday. She asked, "Ready to go?" I nodded, squinting at the sunlight. "Yeah, just trying to wrap my head around it." She smiled, calm and collected. "You handled it like a pro." I didn't feel like a pro. I felt like a kid who'd just gotten handed the keys to a kingdom he didn't know existed. And in that moment, I realized nothing would ever be the same again.
The drive home was quiet. Riley didn't speak, and neither did I. The engine hummed, air conditioning clicking softly, while my mind replayed every moment of the boardroom chaos. 1 second we were just walking in. The next, I was interim chair of a multi-million-dollar company. Back at her place, Riley popped the trunk and tossed her briefcase onto the kitchen counter. "This is it," she said, pulling out a slimmer legal folder. I raised an eyebrow. "What now?" "This," she said, sliding the folder across the table. "Final paperwork for the trust transfer." I opened it. Carter Health Equity Public Trust. My name listed as interim chair, hers as founder. She handed me a pen. "Co-sign this. It's official." I hesitated for a second. "Are you sure about this?" "Yeah," she said. Her eyes softened for just a moment. "This wasn't about revenge. It's about flipping the system that tried to swallow us." I watched her. The little girl in overalls under the shop counter came to mind, eating crackers while I fixed brake lines. She had grown into something unstoppable. We signed. No lawyers, no notary. Just us, a Zoom witness, and a blinking green confirmation of e-signature. The Drexler empire was officially locked under the trust, prioritizing healthcare access, compliance, and transparency. I leaned back, heart pounding. It felt surreal, but right. We weren't stealing anything. We were reclaiming it. A week later, there was a knock just after 11 a.m. Brent Drexler, disheveled and desperate, stood on the porch. "I just need 5 minutes to talk to Riley." I blocked the door with my shoulder. "You called me a prop. Now you beg for mercy." Brent's face twisted in shame. "It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it. I was drunk. I was trying to save face." "That's all you ever did. You followed your father, laughed while people humiliated her, and never stood up. This is your problem. You never thought she could actually act." Riley appeared behind me, calm and firm. "You don't get to spin this," she said. Brent's shoulders slumped. He swallowed hard. As she handed him a crisp white envelope, she said, "Cease and desist. No personal contact, no professional interference. This is structural, not personal." Brent took it, trembling, understanding finally that some things were not negotiable. Riley turned to me. "Ready for the next step?" I nodded. Whatever this next step was, I knew I wouldn't be standing behind her anymore. I'd be standing beside her. 2 weeks later, the sun was blazing over Oak Ridge Park, but the air buzzed with anticipation. A rented pop-up tent stood in the middle of the field, colorful banners fluttering in the wind. "Carter Health Access Fund, Affordable Care, Real Equity," read the bold letters across the back. Tables were stacked with refurbished glucose monitors, blood pressure cuffs, and preloaded medical tablets, all funded by the nonprofit arm of the Drexler Trust. Kids from the neighborhood, families with strollers, and a few elderly folks from the nearby assisted living home milled around. Riley stepped up to the microphone first, sleeves rolled up, sunglasses resting on her head. "Today is not about headlines or handouts," she began. Her voice carried across the park, calm but commanding. "It's about closing gaps that should never have existed." People nodded, some clapped. A few teenagers near the basketball court stopped dribbling just to listen. Then she pointed toward me. "There was someone who worked 3 shifts to keep the lights on, someone who taught me that showing up matters more than any title. This is the man who made all of this possible." My stomach flipped. The microphone felt too small, my voice too loud, then too soft. I admitted to the crowd, "I don't know much about business. I still don't. I can't run spreadsheets, I don't speak in acronyms, but I know how to show up every day. And that, apparently, is enough to build something that matters." A few laughs rippled through the crowd. Genuine applause followed, not polite claps, but heartfelt appreciation. After the event, 3 teenagers approached me. A girl with a buzz cut and a hoodie reading "Future Engineer" looked me in the eye. "I've never seen someone like me at a board table before," she said. I nodded, unsure of what to say. Another teen asked for a picture. I handed over my phone. "Sure." Later, a local news crew ran a segment titled "Mechanic Dad Turns Corporate Chair." They spelled my name wrong, but I didn't care. I watched the footage outside while Riley handled interviews, calm and collected, never performative, always herself. When the last table was packed and volunteers left, only Riley and I remained under the shade. She handed me a small white envelope, no words. Inside was a single key and a folded deed. "New house," she said. 3-bedroom, corner lot, close drive from our old duplex. Not repayment, just an upgrade for both of us. I held the key, feeling its weight. "Are we moving?" "Only if we want to," she replied, shrugging. We sat there a while, wind brushing past, listening to distant traffic. No rush, no fanfare, just quiet, earned peace. 1 year later, the polished auditorium at UC Davis gleamed under the bright stage lights. Rows of business students filled every seat, eyes locked on Riley as she prepared for her keynote. The stage was simple, minimalistic, just a podium, a screen, and the calm authority that Riley always carried. Her presentation was titled "Strategic Patience, Winning by Watching." She didn't pace or overperform. Every word landed deliberately, every pause measured. Timing, leverage, controlling narrative. Concepts I had learned by instinct, now given names by her clarity. During the Q&A, a student stood up. "Who influenced your approach the most when you were starting out?" Riley didn't hesitate. "I learned business from a man who never went to college," she said, her gaze sweeping the room. "But he taught me cost, value, and return better than any textbook." Her eyes found me in the audience. The room erupted in applause. Some students even turned around just to see me sitting there, quiet, hands folded, absorbing it all. I didn't smile, didn't wave, just nodded, letting her moment shine. After the session, professors and program heads swarmed Riley with business cards, invitations, and offers. I stayed in the side door, unnoticed, watching her navigate it all with the same precision she showed in that boardroom months ago. Outside, a valet stood by, busy with students handing over keys to old, unwashed cars. One teen, the same kid who had laughed at my rusted truck a year ago, gave me a nod. "Nice ride, sir," he said. I slipped him a $5 bill, walking past without breaking stride. The town car was already waiting.
Riley finished her water bottle and glanced up at me as I entered. "You crushed it," I said. "I know, but thanks," she replied, calm as ever. As we eased into campus traffic, I turned in my seat. "You didn't have to do all this." "You're right," she said softly. "I didn't. I wanted to." A billboard came into view, standing over the gas station we used to fill with quarters and dollar bills. "Integrity is inherited. Carter Health Equity Fund." No fancy graphics, just words. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Not revenge. Resolution. That's what it felt like.
Weeks after the keynote, Riley and I returned to Oak Ridge Park, this time not for a launch event, but to check in on the impact of the Carter Health Equity Fund. The tents were gone, but the tables and medical supplies remained, now in steady use by local clinics and volunteers. Children waved as we walked by, some running up to thank us for glucose monitors or blood pressure cuffs. One teen with a future engineer hoodie jogged up again, grinning. "We're already using these for our community project," she said. I smiled, realizing the ripple effect of even small actions. Riley led me to a small tent where volunteers were sorting tablets loaded with health literacy software. She nodded at a young man explaining the devices to a group of elderly residents. "See, that's why we do this," she said. "It's not about headlines. It's about giving tools to people who actually need them." I watched her, proud, but also humbled. She had built this from nothing, not just the nonprofit, but the vision, the integrity, the plan. And somehow, she trusted me to stand beside her in it. That afternoon, we walked past the basketball court where a small crowd of kids had gathered. One boy tugged at my sleeve. "Hey, you the guy from the keynote?" "Yeah," I said, crouching down to his level. "You're like real-life inspiration," he said, eyes wide. "Nah, just someone who shows up." Riley smiled beside me, her hand brushing mine briefly. No words were needed. She had shown me the meaning of leadership, patience, observation, and timing. And she had taught me that real power wasn't about titles, it was about impact. And by evening, we sat in the quiet of the office we'd set up for the nonprofit. A whiteboard filled with plans and timelines stared back at us. "So, next quarter?" I asked. "Next quarter. More clinics, more supplies, more access." I nodded, feeling a sense of purpose I hadn't known before. The world of corporate battles and hostile boardrooms was behind us, replaced with something far more challenging, building a legacy worth inheriting, not just defending. And as we looked out the window at the sun dipping behind the Oak Ridge skyline, I realized that some victories weren't celebrated with applause. Some were felt quietly, in the steady progress of others' lives, in the trust and partnership between two people who refused to compromise their principles. Riley turned to me, her eyes soft but steady. "Ready for the next one?" I smiled, finally understanding. Always.
Months passed, but the shift in our lives felt immediate. The Carter Health Equity Fund had grown faster than I could have imagined. Clinics we'd supplied were now teaching workshops, and local families were learning to manage health issues that once went ignored. Riley and I settled into a rhythm, balancing the nonprofit with our own lives. Some days were exhilarating, some exhausting. But every evening, as we closed the office and walked out together, there was a quiet satisfaction neither of us had ever known. One afternoon, a knock came at the door. I opened it to find Brent standing there again, slightly more composed this time. His tie still crooked, but his demeanor calmer. I just wanted to understand," he began, voice low. Riley didn't flinch. She stepped beside me, her presence firm. "You've seen it. The legacy you thought you inherited isn't about wealth. It's about responsibility. You failed to honor it." Brent swallowed hard, eyes dropping. "I get it now. I wanted to fix things, but I didn't know how. I thought money was enough. You had a chance to stop the corruption, to speak up, to protect the people depending on your decisions. You didn't. He nodded silently. No excuses, no arguments, just recognition. Riley handed him a folder. She said, "Here's your formal notice. No more interference. It's over. Protect your own path, not ours." Brent accepted it, shaking slightly, then left without looking back. That evening, Riley and I sat on the porch of the new house. The sky burned orange over the city. I poured 2 glasses of lemonade. "You think you'll really change?" I asked. Riley shrugged, leaning back. "Some people learn, some people don't. Doesn't matter. We're focused on what we can control." I nodded, taking a sip. Control, legacy, integrity. Words that had haunted my past now felt like tools for the future. Weeks later, I returned to the UC Davis Auditorium, this time as co-speaker, alongside Riley. She spoke of vision, strategy, and resilience. When she mentioned me in her keynote, the applause wasn't polite or hesitant. It was heartfelt. Students approached me after, asking for advice, sharing stories, inspired by someone they never expected to see at a board table. Riley caught my eye across the room. No words were needed. The partnership we'd forged, the battles we'd won, the system we changed, all of it had come full circle. And in that moment, I realized the truth. Real victories weren't in the boardrooms we'd conquered or the trusts we signed. They were in the lives we touched, the trust we earned, and the principles we refused to compromise. As we left the auditorium together, stepping into the afternoon sun, I finally understood. Legacy wasn't inherited. It was built. And we had built ours, brick by brick, day by day, together. The Drexler empire was no longer a cage of greed and corruption. It was a platform for change, a tool for good, and a testament to what patience, courage, and integrity could achieve. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were exactly where we were supposed to be.
The weeks after the nonprofit launch felt surreal. Riley and I were no longer reacting, we were building. Every morning, the office buzzed with activity. Volunteers, interns, and local partners arriving early, fueled by the mission we'd set into motion. I spent mornings overseeing operations, making sure deliveries and medical supplies reached the right places. I wasn't running spreadsheets, but I was learning faster than I imagined. Riley handled strategy, negotiations, and board communications. Her confidence now second nature. Watching her work, I realized just how much she had grown, and how much she had taught me without even trying. One Tuesday afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address, just a neatly folded card. Riley opened it first. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she scanned the words. Then she turned to me, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Someone wants to fund a new community health initiative," she said. "They've seen the work we're doing. They want in." I looked down at the envelope, then back at her. "Just like that?" "Just like that," she replied. Word spreads when people notice results instead of headlines. That evening, we walked through the neighborhood where the first event had been held. Kids played basketball, families waved from their porches, and elderly neighbors stopped to say hello. For the first time, it didn't feel like charity or obligation. It felt like community. Riley stopped at a corner lot where a small clinic was under construction. "This is going to be our pilot for next year," she said. "Fully equipped, staffed by locals. Everything we've learned goes into it." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "You really think we can change things?" She looked at me, her eyes steady and unwavering. "We already are. One clinic, one neighborhood, one family at a time. That's how change happens." Later, we returned to the new house, sitting on the porch with a gentle breeze carrying the smell of fresh-cut grass. I poured 2 glasses of lemonade, just like the day we celebrated the first fund launch. "Remember when we thought we couldn't handle it?" I asked. Riley laughed softly. "Every single day. But look at us now." I raised my glass to her, to standing beside each other. She clinked her glass with mine. To new beginnings. The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. And for the first time, I felt completely certain that no matter what challenges came next, we had the strength, the trust, and the vision to face them together. The Drexler legacy had transformed, not just a fortune, not just power, but a force for good. And we were just getting started.
Months passed, and life settled into a rhythm neither of us could have imagined. Riley and I had learned how to balance the nonprofit, the trust, and a semblance of personal life. The chaos of the boardroom felt like a distant memory, though the lessons remained etched in our minds. One crisp autumn morning, I walked into the new clinic we'd funded. Volunteers were setting up stations, patients were arriving, and the hum of activity was oddly comforting. I caught Riley's eye across the room. She gave me a small nod, and for a moment, we didn't need words. We were synchronized, a team refined by fire. A young boy tugged at my sleeve. "Mr. Carter, can you help me set up the monitors?" I crouched down, showing him how to calibrate the devices. Watching him, I realized this was more than charity. It was mentorship, education, and empowerment. The kid's grin reminded me of my own first day at the garage, hesitant, nervous, but full of potential. Later that afternoon, Riley and I attended a local community meeting. The mayor spoke of growth and investment, but when Riley stood to present the nonprofit's impact, the room went silent. She shared stories of families who finally had access to health care, of schools now equipped with health literacy software, of neighborhoods gaining confidence and tools to thrive. After her speech, a woman approached her. Mid-40s, tired eyes, but hopeful. "I don't know how to thank you. My son's diabetes used to terrify me. Now he can check his levels at home, and I feel like hope matters again." Riley smiled, brushing off the praise. "We're just doing what needs to be done." As we walked back to the car, I looked at her. "You make it all look easy." She shrugged. "It's not easy, but it's real. That's the difference." That evening, at home, we sat on the porch with lemonade once again, watching the sunset. The house felt alive, a symbol of the journey we'd endured, from grease-stained hands to polished floors, from distrust and betrayal to partnership and purpose. I thought of Brent, Alan, and the Drexler empire left behind. The anger and arrogance had dissolved into nothing but a cautionary tale. What mattered now wasn't revenge. It was legacy. A legacy measured by lives changed, not wealth amassed. Riley rested her head on my shoulder, the kind of quiet comfort only years of shared struggle could bring. "We did it," she whispered. "Yeah, I really did." And in that moment, I understood. Full circle didn't mean going back. It meant moving forward, together, stronger and unshakable. The world outside the porch was still messy, unfair, and unpredictable. But inside, we had created something permanent. A life built on integrity, action, and the rare kind of trust that could withstand anything. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving.
The morning light filtered through the blinds as I sipped my coffee, staring at the quiet street outside. For the first time in decades, there was no chaos demanding my attention. No corporate battles, no angry board members, no endless emails, just peace. Riley walked in, hair pulled back, casual hoodie, coffee in hand. She sat across from me, eyes soft but focused. "You know," she said, "we built something bigger than money, bigger than titles, bigger than any of them could ever understand." I nodded, thinking back to that boardroom, the tension, the betrayal, the raw power of evidence in Riley's hands. That moment had changed everything, not just for the company, but for the people it was meant to serve. For once, justice wasn't about punishment. It was about accountability, transparency, and making sure good intentions translated into real impact. 2 weeks later, we officially opened the first Carter Health Access Hub in the city. Families came from miles around. Children played with donated health monitors, while parents spoke to volunteers about nutrition, diabetes management, and preventative care. I watched Riley move through the crowd with ease. She was no longer just the strategist, she was the heart of it all. Later that afternoon, I found myself speaking to a small group of teenagers. One girl, barely 16, looked at me wide-eyed. "You mean you started from nothing, and now this?" I smiled. "Yeah, and the lesson isn't about luck. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and never letting someone else's arrogance define your worth." Riley joined me, placing a hand on my shoulder. She said, "We're proof that integrity pays dividends, not in money, but in trust, respect, and impact." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt an unfamiliar calm wash over me. The Drexler legacy, once tainted by greed and entitlement, had been redirected. Our combined efforts had created something that mattered, not just for us, but for generations to come. That night, we stood on the porch of our new home, a corner-lot 3-bedroom that symbolized more than comfort. It represented survival, strategy, and the rare triumph of doing the right thing when no one else believed it could be done. "You know," I said, handing Riley a glass of lemonade, "I never thought I'd get here." "Neither did I," she replied, eyes glinting, "but we did, together." We watched the streetlights flicker on, the distant sounds of laughter and life carrying through the air. For the first time, the future didn't feel uncertain. It felt ours. Legacy isn't built on wealth or power. It's built on choices, on courage, on refusing to let the world dictate who you are or what you can do. And that day, I realized we had secured ours.